Welcome back to the Rory Talks Football channel, your daily Arsenal news, updates, reactions and opinions. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. We've just hit 2,750. We're now on the road to 3,000 subscribers. Massively appreciate all the support as always. And if you could smash a like on the video as well, that would be fantastic. We've got Lavia talk, Caicedo talk. I want to go on a bit of a rant actually about that. Balogun potentially to Crystal Palace. What could that mean over the course of the transfer window? We will get into it. But starting with Lavia, obviously there was small news yesterday about Arsenal being interested in Lavia. That's been confirmed now by Simon Jones in the Mail. He said Arsenal are considering a bid for Southampton's Lavia as they look to bolster their midfield. The likes of Moises Caicedo and Declan Rice have been on their shortlist, with the latter close to completing a deal. Now, the other thing with Lavia is that his agent is the same agent as Bukayo Saka, and there is a very good relationship between that agent and Arsenal. So obviously that is something that could potentially be helpful. And obviously we know, that we're out of the Caicedo race, probably. Although there's some interesting news on that, because I think we all accepted that if Caicedo was going to be 100 million plus, then that was not doable. But news about Chelsea's bid for Caicedo yesterday suggests to me that Brighton might want 100 million for him, but they're never going to get that. And so on that, basically, Ornstein said yesterday, so obviously a top-tier source, Ornstein said yesterday, Chelsea have agreed, this was part of a different tweet, but Chelsea have agreed terms with Nicholas Jackson and intend to strike a deal with Villarreal. And then he said Brighton rejected a £60 million bid for Moises Caicedo 2 weeks ago, with Lavia, Kone, Tonale and Barella among alternatives. Now, they're four completely different midfielders, which I think is a long-term problem for Chelsea anyway, that they don't seem to actually have a profile they're looking for. But if they're turning their attention to Lavia too, because they had a £60 million bid rejected, that suggests Brighton are never going to get 100 million. If we've turned away because we think it's too expensive and now Chelsea are doing the same, well, there aren't many clubs that are going to pay for him. So I think it could end up being quite a lot less than 60 million. But the thing that's really wound me up is that when Arsenal bid 80 million for Declan Rice, it was immediately on Sky, all over the media, saying, oh, it's an embarrassing bid, it's an insulting bid that Arsenal have come in with. When Arsenal bid 70 million for Caicedo in January, it was reported as insulting Brighton and an embarrassing bid. And yet Chelsea, 6 months after we did that, and when Caicedo's under a new 5-year contract, bid 60 million, 10 million less than Arsenal bid, and there's basically no media coverage of it. This happened 2 weeks ago. Fabrizio's been tweeting 5 times a day about Caicedo to Chelsea and never even mentioned it. And we've certainly not heard anyone coming out saying, oh, it's an embarrassing bid from Chelsea, it's an insulting bid from Chelsea. So I really just don't understand why Arsenal are treated completely differently in the transfer window, as if we just go around insulting every team by trying to get a good deal. It's insane and it's really infuriating, and I just totally do not understand it. 70 million in January for Moises Caicedo, when, by the way, Brighton were currently paying him at that time £3,000 a week. That's how much they valued him. They were valuing him at £3,000 a week, and we've bid 70 million, but apparently that was insulting. So very frustrating, and something that I don't really understand. The media have long time had a problem with Arsenal for various reasons, and it just seems to continue. Every time we bid for someone, it sounds like we're going to bid 101 million for Declan Rice, and people are going, oh, it's Suarez all over again, the 40 million plus one. It's 101 million quid. It's only 14 million quid less than Jude Bellingham's gone for, and yet people still seem to have an issue with it. So something that really frustrates me, but that rant is over. Anyway, on the topic of Declan Rice, by the way, there is now a head-to-head between two top-tier sources. Team News and Ticks, who is very, very reliable top-tier source for Arsenal news, said that the second bid has already gone in for Declan Rice. Ex-West Ham United employee, who is a very top-tier source for West Ham, has said that the bid is ready, but it hasn't gone in yet. So there is a clash of the titans, because one of them is wrong. And I guess at some point we'll find out which one of them is indeed wrong. But as it stands, there aren't really any reports of a second bid going in. And if it has, it certainly hasn't been acted upon by West Ham yet. So I'd imagine we'll get news on that at the start of next week. Obviously, subscribe if you want to see that. And then I wanted to talk about this new news about Balogun. Obviously, we know there are quite a few teams interested in following Balogun, particularly from Europe, Inter Milan, RB Leipzig, Juventus potentially. But now we have a Premier League team looking at him. Crystal Palace have joined the race for following Balogun and have already asked for information on the player. That's coming from Ryan Taylor, who is a good source. I think he reports for like the Daily Express or one of those rags, but individually he's actually quite good. So it is good news. And I mean, this is an interesting one for me because there are 3 players at Palace that I would quite like. And if we can somehow create a deal which involves Balogun going one way and one of those coming the other way, that would be very interesting. Those are Mark Guehi, Eze, and Elise. Now, for me, Elise will probably be the first one that I would go for. But it's tricky. If we're valuing Balogun at 40 million, I think Palace probably value all 3 of those at slightly more than 40 million. So you probably wouldn't get a straight swap. But I would be interested in bringing one of those players one way and letting Balogun go the other way. And look, Palace need a striker desperately. Even as good as Roy Hodgson had them playing at the end of last season, they needed a striker and they still do. And so it is something, and Balogun, it just feels like a Crystal Palace signing. And so I'd be interested in that. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on it. Otherwise, look, you could just take the 40 million for Balogun and reinvest it elsewhere. You don't have to take a player from Palace, but I don't feel like Palace would pay 40 million. That's the thing. I think they'd rather have a player go the other way. But interesting nonetheless. And really, that is most of the news for today. Obviously, over the weekend, a lot of journalists take a bit of time off, so there's nothing particularly fresh. But other than that, please do subscribe. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Have a fantastic weekend. I'll be back tomorrow. Cheers.